Sukarno had been well known for his great ideas. It covered from the anti-colonialism, nationalism, to internationalism perspective. Sukarno came up with the ideas ever since he was a youngster. It was triggered at host Cokro Aminoto's house. From the books of the great philosophers, from his experiences as the political prisoner and political figure, as well as from his position as the president.
Proklamasi.
Sukarno's great perspective on anti-colonialism, nationalism, and internationalism was relevant to be introduced to the world at the time. On September 30, 1960, Sukarno received an invitation to address his political views at the 15th General Assembly meeting of the United Nations. Sukarno grabbed this opportunity to spread his great perspective to build the world to be more fair and just. And he addressed Pancasila, the 5 basic principles, to be the UN Charter, in his speech titled, "To Build the World Anew." The speech was highly phenomenal and courageous, knowing the fact that it was addressed by the newly independent country. It proposed the ideology of confronting the conflict between the Eastern and Western bloc. In his speech, Sukarno urged to solve the conflict by highly respecting the solidarity between the nations. Sukarno's perspective in the speech were recorded in Sukarno's speech document, "To Build the World Anew." The archives consist of 28 sheets of textual archives, 2 photos, 1 audio recording cassette, and 5 rolls of films being preserved at the Depot G and F of National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia. In the archives, there are 6 descriptions of Sukarno's perspective. Each of them records the world's significance. Namely, first, nationalism. It emphasized that the state sovereignty and nationalism is a vision that should not be constrained by anyone. Second, the equality of sovereignty and human rights, which underlines the solution of solving the conflicts without any violence. The equality of sovereignty for all nations, which emphasize on the human rights. Third, anti-colonialism and imperialism. It claims that colonialism and imperialism should be dismissed in order to create a just and peaceful world. Fourth, restructuring the organization of the UN. The restructuration of the organization is to create the UN to be more fair and to give more chance to the newly independent countries to involve in reducing the world tension. Fifth, world peace. Through UN resolutions that represent the involvement of Ghana, Yugoslavia, India, and United Emirates Arab that specifically call out the USA and Soviet Union to reconcile and compromise politically to each other as a solution to the world peace. 6. Alternative ideology. It proposed the spirit declared in the five principles and ideology of Pancasila, which Sukarno asserted that they held the universal and international values. In his speech, Sukarno confidently explained one by one the meaning and interpretation of Pancasila, and he proudly stated for the first time that he offered Pancasila as the alternative ideology to be inserted in the UN Charter, and it should be put as the foundation for the organization of the UN. The archives preserve essential historical values. The contents give information on the efforts of creating the world peace. At the same time, the international world becomes more aware on the values of Pancasila. The speech stunned the prominent figures in the world. Most of them were the leaders from the newly independent nations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. These nations gained their freedom from the decolonization process. Pancasila was set from scattered heritage in the archipelago. Pancasila penetrated the hearts of the prominent figures in the world.
We seek to build a new, a better world.
Therefore, we nominate Sukarno's speech to be the world documentary heritage for their essential roles as the source of information on the perspectives and ideas coming from the national figure. Texts of Sukarno's speech preserve significant history of the world for the present and future generations.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi. Selamat datang di acara diskusi online Pusat Studi Arsip Kepresidenan Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia. Salam arsip kepada semua peserta acara diskusi hari ini. And good morning, Mr. Jacob Cass.
Halo, halo semua.
Okay, so welcome to discussion online discussion from Andri. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Oke. Kepada hadirin semua sekalian yang berbahagia, hari ini kita kedatangan Mr. Jacob Cass. How should I call you, Mr. Jacob Cass or Mr. Jacob Cass or Jacob?
You can just call me Jacob if that's easier.
Okay, I will call you
Yeah.
Jacob then.
Yeah.
Okay, before we start, I'm going to greet our participants today. Okay, kepada hadirin sekalian yang berbahagia, selamat datang dalam acara diskusi Pusat Arsip Kepresidenan Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia hari ini. Diskusi hari ini kita akan membahas mengenai jejak Presiden Indonesia, eksplorasi koleksi foto Jejak dari sosial media Koleksi Sejarah Indo. Dalam diskusi ini, kita akan membahas secara mendalam mengenai tanah arsip foto-foto Presiden Republik Indonesia dan juga sejarah perjalanan Republik Indonesia di masa lalu dengan menghadirkan narasumber dan juga pemilik dari foto-foto yang dapat kita lihat dalam Instagram Koleksi Sejarah Indo dan dipublikasikan kepada publik. Dan kita juga akan mengeksplorasi mengenai foto-foto tersebut dan bagaimana cerita menarik yang terkandung dalam koleksi foto-foto ini. Hadirin sekalian yang terhormat, peserta diskusi hari ini kami juga akan mengundang para peserta di aplikasi Zoom Meeting dan juga di channel YouTube untuk dapat berpartisipasi secara langsung dengan memberikan pertanyaan selama acara berlangsung. Dan nantinya Mr. Jacob sebelum acara diskusi berlangsung, kami akan mengundang Mr. Jacob untuk melakukan presentasi terkait dengan arsip-arsip foto yang beliau publikasikan di laman Instagram Koleksi Sejarah Indo. Baik, sebelum kita memulai untuk presentasi, saya ingin membacakan CV dari Jacob. Silakan kepada panitia untuk share CV. Baik, eh, narasumber kita hari ini adalah Jacob Cass. Beliau adalah penggiat sejarah Indonesia dan juga merupakan seorang influencer. Beliau aktif dalam laman Instagram Koleksi Sejarah Indo dan beliau adalah sarjana lulusan dari Tesu University in General Management, kemudian juga Davis High School, Yakima High School Diploma. So, you are from America, right, Mr. Jacob?
Iya, ya. Sekarang saya tinggal di daerah Washington DC, so di
Uh,
Washington DC metro area.
okay, so you can speak Bahasa then.
Iya, dikit, lumayan. Ya.
Oke, so ketika mau presentasi nanti, apakah mau menggunakan bahasa Indonesia atau bahasa Inggris?
Saya pikir saya harus campur karena
Oh,
ada ide yang saya tidak bisa menjelaskan dalam bahasa Indonesia, tapi saya akan coba pakai bahasa Indonesia as much as I can.
baik. Oke, tanpa berpanjang lebar lagi kepada Mr. Jacob, silahkan untuk presentasinya dan kepada panitia mohon untuk share screen.
Okay, so
Oke, I think it's
there
oke.
we go.
Now, oke, the floor is yours, Mr. Jacob.
Okay, so saya mau bicara tentang koleksi saya, especially khususnya Presiden-Presiden Indonesia. I'm going to explain how I got them, dari mana saya dapat foto, and some about the photos, what they are and what they mean, dan the way they're categorized, kind of internationally when it comes to collecting photos. All right. So, what are these photos? Where do they come from? Foto yang saya biasanya beli dari arsip perusahaan media, perusahaan surat kabar atau majalah masa dulu. Jika kita lihat foto yang itu terkenal sekali ya, Soeharto dan Soekarno, tapi di belakang foto copyright Pan Asia Tokyo. Dan ini dari Svedka Dagbladet di Swedia. They basically they had the copyright from Pan Asia, and they received the copy from Pan Asia, the newspaper in Sweden, Svenska Dagbladet. Jadi saya biasanya beli foto-foto dari arsip those companies. I buy their stuff. All right. So, kenapa foto-foto begini atau foto-foto ini tidak di Indonesia? Jika kita lihat foto di sebelah kiri on your screen, ini adalah acara Presiden Soekarno hanya untuk anggota press dari luar negeri. Sukarno especially did a lot of events, a lot of things for the foreign press, and the foreign press loved him. He was a superstar. So it was one of those things where media asing sering dekat Presiden Soekarno masa dulu. So, and jika kita lihat foto sebelah kanan, banyak foto dari koleksi saya dari Amerika atau dari Eropa, dari kunjungan beliau di luar negeri, Soeharto, Soekarno, semua banyak foto dari luar negeri. Jadi, so a sad thing about history because of the way that uh, pembangunan negara-negara and things like that. This photo is penting sekali. Ini adalah saat Indonesia declared martial law, 1957, when there was a lot of things going on in the country, and they handed control to the military. This is one of the biggest moments in control in the country. Tapi jika kita lihat foto ini, banyak wartawan dari Indonesia hanya punya pencil dan kertas. Because of the time, sadly, there was a lot of photojournalism access and a lot of photojournalists from outside. So there's a ton of photos that were sent back to their offices that I'm not sure, I'm sure that Indonesia has a lot, but, it's sad that a lot of them did go outside, and that's what I buy. So, masa dulu sudah ada foto-foto begini di semua surat kabar dan majalah di Amerika dan Eropa. So, in a way, we were very lucky because the war and because World War II we already had a ton of journalists. Dan setelah perang, the journalists went everywhere, covering new nations, covering new events. So there's a lot of photos that were taken by foreign journalists, and they had cameras, they had everything ready to go already. So they had a head start in photojournalism to take a ton of photos. So how do I have them? Masa dulu, there were so many surat kabar dan majalah, dan karena masa digital, banyak mereka tutup, bankrupt atau harus jual arsip mereka untuk raise funds. Dan foto-foto tersebut pergi ke wholesaler atau seseorang beli, sebagian besar arsip mereka untuk they digitize it for them, and then they get money for sending all those photos to the wholesaler. So I search wholesalers, I search independent sellers, I search anybody who might have photos in America and Europe, and I buy from them. I search them, I make deals, I do whatever I can. If we look at this photo, this was later on, of course, but you'll see the Associated Press paper stuck to the back. So, they have all kinds of different sources. And saya untung karena saya mulai beli waktu they all went bankrupt. So there was a while that these things were widely available and pretty cheap on the market. And I just kind of went into a buying frenzy. And because of their bankruptcies, because of the availability of all these photos, I built up a collection of maybe 2,500 photos now, 2,600, somewhere in that area of Indonesian history. So where do I find all these? Saya mencari di mana-mana. Foto yang ini dari Alberto Cordas. Alberto Cordas was the personal photographer for Fidel Castro. Dia terkenal untuk ambil foto Che Guevara, potret yang terkenal itu Alberto Corda. Dia kemudian menjadi personal photographer for Fidel. Jadi saat Presiden Soekarno tiba di Cuba, dia ambil beberapa foto. Saya beli dari what do you call it? I buy it from the estate of Alberto Corda. Their original prints were out there. I search everywhere in Europe. I search everywhere in America that I can find retired photographers, whoever is selling their stuff. Like I said, wholesalers. I search everywhere in America and Europe, South America. I don't search from Indonesia. I don't want to buy photos from there. Saya mau sejarah yang tinggal di Indonesia untuk that is there. I want saya mau sejarah di Indonesia untuk tinggal di sana. Jadi saya tidak mencari di Indonesia untuk beli-beli foto. So hopefully other people will go and find the valuable photos there and build their own collections because it's valuable to history, to everything else, to protect what's out there. So for me, I look anywhere and everywhere that I can, whether it's photographers, collections after they've died, or whether it's the wholesalers of magazines and newspapers. I search everywhere and anywhere that I can to locate these images and try to get hold of them. So, untuk classify photos, a company called PSA, they created a system to classify and categorize photos. So now, sekarang Anda bisa kirim foto ke PSA dan mereka punya profesional di sana dan akan authenticate your photos. So a type 1 photo, paling mahal, paling desirable, paling penting, dicetak dari negatif yang asli dalam 2 tahun. The photo was taken. So diambil. That is the original prints. Sometimes kadang-kadang hanya ada satu, kadang-kadang 6 or 7. Tapi itu adalah foto-foto yang penting. The original type 1. Type 2, it's printed from the original negative, masih pakai negatif yang asli. Tapi later than 2 years, later than 2 years, nanti dari 2 tahun kemudian nanti. Maaf ya. So it's basically if you use that same negative, but you make a print more than 2 years later, a more modern print, but still using the negative, it's a type 2. Type 3 is seperti yang kita lihat dari foto sebelum dengan typing di bawah. Itu mereka ambil foto atau negatif dan kirim pakai mesin dan kirim dari telepon untuk dicetak tempat lain. So a duplicate negative, if you copy the negative or you use a wire transmission, that's a type 3. But it has to be within 2 years. So when you're classifying photos and building things, they can now see if it's a duplicate negative, the original negative. Type 3, still within 2 years, so it's still an original, but it's not from the original negative. And then type 4 is basically when you take the duplicate copy and you make a print of that later than 2 years. That's the least desirable. Paling murah, paling easiest to find. Well, not easiest to find, but easiest to buy. But it is important to remember that sometimes the original photo or even the original negative could be gone. We're talking about media companies. They were busy. They did a lot of stuff. So they sometimes kadang-kadang mereka hilang negatif atau hilang dicetak asli dan hanya ada type 3 yang masih ada. So it's a complicated system. They would still be a type 3, but even though you have a type 3 photo, it still maintains value because these were all limited. They were never, foto-foto begini belum pernah jual kepada umum. They were never sold to the public. Hanya untuk perusahaan media. So sebelum mereka dibangkrut, tidak ada orang yang bisa beli foto asli begini. Hanya prints for the general public. So it's a special thing, istimewa. Uh, Kita bisa beli foto-foto begini sekarang karena foto-foto begini, foto-foto seperti ini were never supposed to be sold to the public. So if we look at these examples, on the left side, you'll see the original print. Dari negatif asli, contrast the photo, uh, the darks are blacker, everything is more sharp. So foto yang itu dari negatif asli dan dicetak saat itu foto asli Presiden Soekarno dan Presiden Kennedy di Gedung Putih. Dan sebelah kanan foto itu, jika kita lihat sebelah kanan, paling kanan, ada tulisan. Mereka ambil foto yang itu, saya pikir setelah sekitar 1 bulan setelah kemerdekaan Indonesia. Dan karena wartawan di sana, mereka pakai mesin untuk kirim ke Amerika untuk dicetak hari selanjutnya. Jadi mereka tidak harus kirim dari kapal atau pesawat dan tunggu. So it made next day news possible. So these are just, inilah hanya dua examples of that. And I'll show you more, but this is so you have an idea of what we're talking about when it comes to buying historical photos and what they are. So jika kita lihat foto yang ini, famous highlights, and I'll go through a lot more, but we've got the very famous "To Build the World a New" speech, a UPI photo, United Press International. We got President Suharto, or General Suharto, a portrait by foreign media. I believe that they took it or they had an original print. And of course, the music di Yunyani, foto terkenal, itu adalah cable photo dari United Press International. Ada beberapa perusahaan saat itu yang ambil dan distribute foto, UPI, Acme, beberapa lagi. But once you get to know those companies, finding photos like these becomes a lot easier because you get familiar with what to look for. Right now, it might sound kind of crazy, but it gets a lot easier when you get to buying so you can get original history. And I believe that's the end of the PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you so much, Jacob, for your very interesting presentation just now. So I will explain in Bahasa first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Silakan, Mbak.
Baik. Jadi kalau saya boleh agak sedikit menyimpulkan terkait dengan presentasi dari Jacob barusan, ada banyak koleksi dari foto-foto yang dikumpulkan oleh Jacob itu dibeli dari beberapa perusahaan media yang akan bangkrut. Jadi eh, apa namanya, kebanyakan foto-foto tersebut dibeli dengan harga murah karena memang kebanyakan perusahaan-perusahaan ini bangkrut dan perusahaan ini berasal dari luar negeri. Jadi Jacob tidak berusaha untuk tidak membeli dari perusahaan-perusahaan yang ada di dalam Indonesia. Jadi semua koleksi walaupun mengenai Indonesia, tapi semua foto-foto ini dibuat dan diciptakan oleh perusahaan media yang berada di luar negeri. Dan juga ada terdapat beberapa jenis arsip foto yang disimpan dan dikoleksi oleh Jacob. Ada foto asli berupa negatif, kemudian juga ada cetakan, dan juga ada beberapa yang hasil cetakan kemudian dicetak kembali. Nah, itu adalah sebagian dari koleksi-koleksi yang tadi diceritakan oleh Jacob, dan ada juga foto yang terkenal terkait dengan arsip yang sudah menjadi memori dunia, yaitu arsip Presiden Soekarno ketika berpidato di sidang Dewan PBB yang sudah sekarang menjadi tercatat sebagai Register Memory of the World. Baik, untuk Bapak Ibu hadirin sekalian, kami ingin mengundang kepada Bapak Ibu, terutama yang di Zoom meeting, jika ada pertanyaan, silahkan untuk langsung raise hands, eh, untuk langsung mengajukan pertanyaan kepada Jacob terkait dengan hasanah koleksi yang Jacob miliki, dan juga untuk peserta di YouTube channel, silahkan juga untuk memberikan komentar atau memberikan pertanyaan kepada Jacob terkait dengan hasanah koleksi foto, arsip foto yang dimiliki oleh Jacob ini. Baik, sebelum kita memulai sesi diskusi dari para peserta, saya ingin juga bertanya kepada Jacob. I would like to ask you a question because it's very interesting, the one that you have presented today. I ask you about, yeah, it's about the how did you interest, how did you suddenly take interest on the Indonesian collections to be your collections? How you choose Indonesia at that time?
So my wife is actually from Indonesia,
Oh,
and if I'm being honest, the first couple times, I mean, I've known her since we were young,
mm-hmm,
and I didn't really care at all until I went to Indonesia several times,
mm-hmm,
and then I pretty much fell in love with the place. I started to appreciate the culture. The people are the best people on earth. Indonesian people are the friendliest, greatest people anywhere. And after visiting a couple times, I was at the airport and I got curious
mm,
because I saw Sukarno Hatta. So
mm,
I just grabbed my phone, look up Sukarno, look up Hatta, and then you go in down the hole because I've always been curious about stuff like that. I love history. And when I did that, I fell down the hole of history. And then one day I found this guy who was selling some photos, and it was President Sukarno. And I thought, yeah, why not buy them? I mean, they were like $15 at the time, a few years ago. So I bought them, and then I showed them to several Indonesian people, and they were like, "Where did you get this?" Like we've some of this we've never seen. We never saw it in school. We never saw it, whatever. And that's when I realized that it was something important. So
mm.
after that, I started buying, and prices have gone up over the years, but I just keep chasing as we try to, as it became a passion. It became a passion to not just collect it, but to preserve this part of history.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because you are coming from somewhere outside Indonesia, and then suddenly you are interested in Indonesian history. You are interested in our president Sukarno and Hatta. I mean, since when did you interested in this kind of collections? Since when?
I mean, it just happened. So it was like I didn't I didn't plan on it. It was just like I said, one day I was at the airport, maybe my third time in Indonesia,
Mm.
looked them
Oh,
up, and then like a year later, I just saw the
uh,
photos for sale, and I was like, maybe I should buy it. And then when people's response was like, "This is amazing. This is amazing. You need to, this is," and that's when in my head, I was like, I need to do this. Something told me like you have to keep going. And then now it's thousands of photos and saham perusahaan dari from companies in the colonial era, books, all kinds of stuff.
well, we have a question here.
Yeah.
Somebody just give me direct message from
Yeah.
Ahmad Fauzan. Apa kriteria foto yang bisa diregister seperti itu? What is the criteria of the photo that you collect? Do you have any
Uh,
criteria? Or you just
if
buy it,
it's
or
if it's interesting to me, if
Mhm.
it's if it's an important moment, jika itu let's see, momen penting atau budaya yang indah atau sejarah tempat yang saya tidak terlalu that I don't know so well, then I'll buy it because I learn by buying these too. When I first started learning, when I first started buying, I knew just kind of what I'd seen. But now, years later, they'll have a caption on it. You research that, and it makes me understand and learn as well. So it's been a great journey for myself because next thing you know, you know way more about a place than you ever expected.
Well, we have somebody raise hands here. Silahkan Bimo dari pesantren Alhamidiyah. Silahkan di-unmute. Uh, kom- silahkan komite. Ya, oke.
Ya, cek sudah keluar ya. Ya, maaf tadi disable sama host. Eh, Selamat pagi semuanya. Ini juga good morning, Mr. Jacob.
Hello, Mr. Bimo. How are you?
I'm fine. What when I'm interested about why you don't put your watermark in your photos,
I
like
do,
uh
but very
in
small.
your PowerPoint you don't do that.
Oh, no, no.
Uh
In the PowerPoint, like sejujurnya saya terlalu takut orang-orang pakai foto-foto ini. Like as much as I like having them, a lot of these photos are famous already. Sudah terkenal. Dan these are kind of your guys' photos too. Like I own the original, so my value is already protected. It's not like something I found, or it's not like something that I whatever. If I ever want to sell, I'm selling original historical photos that have value. So, unless it's something that I think hasn't been published or people have never seen, I'm not so worried about that. I've made mistakes before with photos that I should have watermarked and I didn't. But usually it's not, people take it and put it other places anyway. So it's like, why not let people, enjoy their history as well? So I'll put watermarks on the IG, but I'll put them very small, and I don't put them on people's faces or anywhere it's important, because it's your guys' history. Like I don't want to be the big bad foreigner that's putting his marks all over everything.
Well,
yeah.
it's very interesting, sangat menarik. Kenapa tidak karena ini kan semacam karena you bought it kan, sudah membeli foto itu, tapi tidak dikasih watermark dan lain sebagainya. Dan if you put it only small small in your Instagram, yeah, it's very interesting because has it costs lots of money for you to buy. Pasti tentunya sudah mengeluarkan uang banyak. So how come you think that it's not important?
Well, karena there's two reasons, yeah. So one is saya sudah milik foto asli, dan itu sudah mahal.
Hmm.
Like the photo itself is the value. Dan kedua, saat saya beli karena itu dari perusahaan media,
Mhm.
saya tidak tahu apa yang masih punya copyright
Hmm.
dan apa yang tidak, karena saya beli, because I buy a print, doesn't
Mhm.
mean the copyright transfers to me. I just own the print. So if I'm posting a bunch of stuff and saying that I own it or making money, off their stuff, in America, copyright law is
Hmm.
pretty strict. They can come back and sue me.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm just spreading knowledge and enjoying owning the prints.
Well, I think you should. Yeah, we should give Jacob applause.
It's just,
It's
you
a
know.
very amazing, very amazing.
Well, thank you,
Oh,
but
yeah.
someone should do it. Someone should do it. It's important, and you guys deserve it, because, like I said, I love the people of Indonesia
Yeah.
so much. Like some of my greatest memories of my life are just walking down the street and talking to people, and
Yeah.
you
As
guys are
a
great.
as Indonesian, I'm flattered, I'm
Ah,
flattered.
it's you shouldn't be flattered about the truth.
Okay, we have lots of questions coming.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but first I want to say hello to Yudi because he raised his hand. Yudi, can you okay. Uh unmute? Could you please unmute committee, di unmute dulu panitia. Bisa unmute? Oke.
Oke, got it.
Ya, silakan.
Oke, sudah bisa. Thank you. Oke, first,
Halo? Halo? Unmute. Unmute. unmute, sorry. Siapa?
Oke, udah
Oke.
kedengeran?
Ya, sudah kedengeran.
Oke, oke. Baik, pertama-tama, um, first of all, I really appreciate to Mr. Jacob how you collect your Indonesian photos. For me as an Indonesian is really remarkable for me. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Yudi Prasetyo. I'm a student. I'm a PhD student at North Carolina State University, focusing on learning design, technology, and history. So this is kind of interesting for me because your topic is extremely related with my course for this semester, which is called digital history. And then I also want to inquire something about you because you have so many. You mentioned that you bought these photos in person, not from taking from the digital sources. But I wonder, do you have any recommendations for Indonesian students, or for me, especially for me, to obtain or to acquire um, some photos from the digital resources? Because I know in the US there's a NC History Online, and then Library of Congress, National Archive, and then the NC Digital Collection. But the problem is most of those photographs or resources are only focused on the American history. So I cannot obtain or reach the Indonesian history in the American archives. So maybe you have a recommendation about that. Thank you very much. And also one of um your fan maybe on your Instagram. I've been following you for about 2 years. Greetings
Okay.
from North Carolina.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Yudi.
Terima
Jacob, could you
You're welcome.
please answer the questions?
Yeah, well, terima kasih. Yeah, it's good to meet you online. Hopefully, you're enjoying America. And
Good.
if you're looking for online sources, there's a few archives that have come out. I believe a lot of Dutch stuff. If you DM me, I'll try to find the exact ones. But there is a few photo archives and a few media companies that have made a lot of their stuff available on Wikimedia Commons. So if a lot of portraits and stuff. I'm trying to remember the name of a couple of them off the top of my head. But all the time, Associated Press. So like the Kennedy and Sukarno photos in the back of the limousine. I know all that stuff has already been sent to Wikimedia Commons. So all the stuff taken here in America and a lot of the stuff taken in Europe, you can find. It just takes quite a search. You have to find the right media company who took the photo, and then search for them that way. Like I said, just DM me at some point, and I'll try to find you more exact answers for digital sources that you don't have to pay. Because here, if you live in the States, you know that you have to pay anything to use a photo, which is crazy. Just a digital source. So DM me, and I'll try to look up the companies because I have a few photos from places I've looked up that have uh, free and they've copy open sourced them. So I'd have to look it up though.
Well, Jacob, I do have a personal question regarding what's Yudi's question here.
Yeah.
Supposing that there is a student, for example, a student wants to copy your photo to be their research, for example. So should we pay or just
No,
just
so
copy it?
I've had multiple students reach out to me already from
Uh-huh.
Indonesia,
Mm-hmm.
and if someone's looking to use something for a school project, I just send it to them. Like it's no problem. I'll scan it off and send it to them. The same
Oh,
thing with people I've had family members of people that I posted that have asked, and I scan it off and send it to them.
oh,
Like
how
if
generous. How
no, it's
generous.
it's like I say, this is your guys' history. So I don't have time to go and scan everything and just put it out there. But if it's a student who is doing something about history, we should be encouraging everybody that we can to learn more history. You guys have a wonderful, wild history that is a lot of fun, and I wish and I hope that everybody at some point gets really interested in it because it's fascinating.
Okay, Tadi saya barusan bertanya kepada Jacob, kalau misalnya ada student atau mahasiswa misalnya yang ingin butuh foto misalnya untuk penelitian itu bisa menghubungi Jacob. Oke, they can DM you,
Yeah,
send you direct message, right?
sure.
In your
Yeah,
social
and
media.
I apologize for anybody that gets caught in my spam filters or whatever it is that IG has. But as long as it comes through, I try to respond to everybody I can. That's kind of I try to respond to almost all my
Mhm.
comments, and I get busy sometimes, so forgive me, but I want to interact with the Indonesian people. Like, yeah, like if people are taking the time out to like and comment my stuff, it's my responsibility to interact with people.
Oke, thank you so much. Dan
Yeah.
ya, terima kasih banyak. Oke,
Yeah.
ini kita ada lanjut di pertanyaan direct message. Ada yang bertanya, there is Anissa Nur Fitriana. Uh, do you have any some kind like the background information before you did you like some kind like do the study background of the photo that you are going to collect?
So when I do it, let's take this for example. Yeah, let's just look at this. This from the BBB that everybody's been talking about.
Mhm.
Congratulations! Now it's a heritage speech.
Yes.
So when you buy photos for a long time, if you look at the back, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see the stamps and the information. There's the media stamps. There's usually dating on it,
Mm,
and that stuff you kind of use to when you've bought enough you can identify a lot of the stamps and the dates and what should be there to try to get an idea of what is real and what is not. So like this is an original photo. Sometimes I still get burned. I've bought fake photos. I've bought stuff that wasn't real because some people are really good at making fakes, but once you kind of know what you're doing, it gets a lot easier.
hmm. Oke, jadi untuk jawaban dari pertanyaan tadi saya bertanya apakah Jacob melakukan studi atau riset sebelum mencari sebuah foto atau latar belakangnya seperti apa. Dan ternyata memang ada beberapa harus melakukan studi riset karena beberapa kali Jacob pernah membeli foto yang palsu, ya fake photos. You have experienced that too.
You get burned. Udah bakar.
Okay. Okay, now I'm going to greet Rangga Rashid. You raise your
Hmm.
hands. Rangga Rashid, hello, can you listen to me? Hello? Okay.
Hi.
Ya, can you open your camera? Kameranya bisa dibuka?
So let me try. Okay.
Oke,
Sorry.
silakan.
Library. Hi. Hello, Jacob.
Suaranya pelan,
Okay.
bisa?
Hello.
Ya, oke.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Hello. Nice to meet you again, Jacob.
Nice to meet you.
We've talked about for a while, but I personally have a personal correspondence with Jacob. I just want to ask like two things. First one is that do you have like a photo that you think that's unique? You haven't found any of it like anywhere else. So it's very unique and dear to your heart. I just want to ask. That's the first question. So any of the photos, any of the collections, because you have tons of collections, and do you have any that that's close to you you think is really really unique that you haven't found anywhere else? And the second one is that in because I'm a historian, and sometimes we research about uh, photos and stuff like that in the national archives and in the Dutch collections and the library, and sometimes I think most of the times it's either like a state produce production photos and stuff like that, and it's not really like something you see from a press. And so from your perspective, Jacob, do you see there's like something that's unique and particular perspective when you're accessing photos that came not from like state based press but like a foreign press or like a private press? So there's the two questions.
All right. Well, it's good to see you again, my friend. So to your first question, I mean, there's a few that I really, really like. And a lot of those are stuff that people in Indonesia probably wouldn't be too excited by, just because it is cultural stuff, stuff from, if it's the 1960s and seeing something that is somewhat traditional next to, 1960s cars, and just seeing the development of the country to me is fascinating. I also really love this photo. I plan on showing it later, but I'll show it now. To me, this is just super cool. Gus Dur, before he was president, as just the head of NU, just sitting outside of his house. And it's like, yeah, like not a care in the world, and I just love photos like that. When you see someone who, when you see someone who is usually a big time figure, and then is just, when they lower their guard and they're just hanging out. I love stuff like that. And to your second question, yeah, it's definitely different because when you're looking at state photos and stuff like that, they're generally taking photos of stuff that is there to, I don't know, make them good or make them look good or kind of document, what was happening in a certain area at that time. When it comes to photojournalists, you have a lot of, it's you have two different sides. You have people that are there for the event, people that are there for what is happening, if there's a speech, if there's whatever, and then a big event happens, they're there to take care of that. But then you have the other side of people that show up on a mission to go to a part of a town and just take photos of it. And it's not meant to be, it's just for a story or an idea that they have versus, well, we're Dutch and we're going to take photos of stuff that, kind of document what's happening. Instead, it's like, let's find a story and tell that story. And to me, that's really cool because if you find the article that goes with it, you get a lot more background into what was happening at that time and what that person was thinking and looking for. So to me, it's a lot more impressive than just like, well, here's Bandung in 1925, and this is what they did.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Rangga. Do you have any question or enough? Is it enough? Sudah cukup? Okay. Thank you. Ini there are lots of questions coming. Okay, now I'm going to read a DM message for me from let's see, from Gina Triani Putri. Hello Jacob. Do you have any other collections besides Indonesian history in your collections?
Well, that's a good question because for a long time I didn't. But in the last year and a half, I've bought stuff that isn't related to Indonesia, not to necessarily have, but because I am starting a site like a gallery to sell. Because I've met enough people and I've met enough people over time that I've got access to a lot of different stuff. So I do have stuff that isn't Indonesian now. For a long time, all I had was Indonesia. That was all I cared about. That was all and it's still personally, that's my personal collection. But I do own, if anybody's been watching my IG stories, been seeing my IG, whatever, I do have other stuff that I own now, but it's not something I really care about. Maaf ya, Mbak. Oh.
Okay, sorry. It's still
No, no.
unmute. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I think there is another question from Bimo just now. Yeah. I think it's quite. Yeah. The questions it's quite personal. I think. Is it possible for you to sell your collections to Indonesians, to the Indonesians, because you have lots of photo collections on Indonesia. So, is it possible for you to sell it to Indonesians?
So I'll be honest, right now I don't sell anything because I respect Indonesia
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to break any laws. I don't want to do any business over there. I don't want to, I know that Indonesia is very strict about making sure you have the right permits and the right things to make any money over there. So I'm not going to get involved in any of that until the day that I could actually, do it legally. I don't want to be the guy and I've talked to people from the embassy here talking about stuff, and they're like, no matter what you do, just don't make money selling in anything in Indonesia. And I respect it. I'm not I'm not trying it, and I'm not so pressed for the money that I'm
Mm.
worried about it. So I'm not. The last thing I want to do is break Indonesian law and not be able to visit the country.
Oh, thank you. Your answer, it's very concise. Okay. Now, because you know, because I work at National Archive of Indonesia,
Yeah,
and our institutions also is open for public. So for those who want to do a research about Indonesian history, they can come to ANRI for free to read the archives. Because I see you in your Instagram, there are lots of photos. They are not in ANRI. I mean, there are lots of photos. It's not in Indonesia, even. It's not in Indonesia. So suppose that there is an opportunity, can Henri like make a copy, a digital copy of your collections to be our
yeah.
collections and to
I,
be serve it to public for free? So what do you think about that?
that wouldn't bother me. Like I said, it wouldn't bother me if Henri
Mm.
wanted copies of stuff that they don't have. This is your history too. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that that people have access to it. So yeah, if Henri sees stuff, or if you guys are prowling my account and see things that you want a copy of, let me know. It's no problem.
Yeah, them are not in Henri. Yeah, yeah. We need some more those photos for our history because we serve researchers,
Yeah,
students, they when they want to do the research, especially about Indonesia in the past, especially about the presidents of Indonesia. So yeah, I think it's a very remarkable collections that you have, and Andre will be very honored if we
yeah.
can make a
I
copy
guess
of your collections.
I would be happy to make that happen. Like I said, I can't really, how would you say? I can't really bring it all to Indonesia just
Hmm.
because I don't have luggage space, and who knows when I get to go back. Hopefully soon, but who knows? But yeah, if you guys see stuff, or if you see whatever, if you get somebody to go through my account, or even DM me, I can go through stuff and send you guys scans of it because, like I said, I want Indonesia to have access to your stuff. I'm not the
Wow.
guy who's going to be like, "What's mine?"
Yeah,
That's
because you bought it by your own
Yeah. I mean,
money.
but for
So
me,
yeah.
the value is in the photo itself.
Mm-hmm.
So if we look at the market for photography,
Mm-hmm.
just kind of as a background,
Mm-hmm.
um, so like I said, I've bought photos that are outside and I've had them
Mm-hmm.
appraised. I've done some selling. So like this, just for example, Tank Man,
Mm-hmm.
the famous photo of the tanks. I bought that. This is the original to the year. It's a Type 3, and it was quoted at. I had it appraised at $1,000, roughly $1,000 for that one photo. So everybody knows the photo. It's already famous. The value is in the print. So for me, giving you guys, copies, it doesn't hurt me at all. It's good for you guys, and then I feel like I did something good.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, you perhaps I will give you another applause. You know, yeah, it's been an honor for me to be the host for these discussions. It's such a humble that you yet you keep the collection of our nations. It's really remarkable.
Well, thank
Okay.
you for your kind words. For me, it's
Yeah.
just doing something I love.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless with just you just said. Saya
No,
jadi tidak bisa berkata apa-apa nih hadirin sekalian karena begitu luar biasanya Jacob begitu mencintai sejarah Indonesia dan banyak sekali pelajaran yang dapat kita ambil, terutama silahkan Bapak Ibu untuk mengunjungi Instagram beliau sejarah. What is your Instagram? I forgot it.
it's Koleksi underscore Sejera underscore Indo.
Yeah.
And it's just Indo because they wouldn't let me put the whole Indonesia.
Mm.
I didn't put Indo because Indo,
Yeah, never mind. It's only a
Yeah.
name.
Yeah, some people get a,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the
Well,
netizens, they get me.
well, we have lots of questions coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
let's do it.
let's move to another questions. From Biro UHP, dari Biro UHP, Pak Hendy. Hello, Jacob. In your opinion, what is the most interesting about Sukarno's personality from your collections?
From my collection, the most interesting thing about Sukarno's personality, I mean, the guy he was a rock star in a president's position. You know, like to me, what's fascinating is is that he always had what sounded like the right thing to say. You know, his personality was so big that it didn't matter what the situation was, how bad something was, how good something was. He always seemed the same in the way that he would approach things. He had a fire inside of him, but then he would smile the next minute. And he kept that all the way through his entire presidency and all the way through whatever. So, you know, if we look at famous photo of him getting arrested, yeah, a 1946 print. It's a famous photo. I'm sure that you guys have it. But if we look at that, he's getting arrested and smiling at the same time. It's amazing. You know, if you're getting arrested by the Dutch, you know, at Agressie Militaire 2, and you're smiling, that's I wouldn't smile. I don't have that charisma, and it's just his charisma that shines through. That is probably the most interesting thing about his entire. I mean, yeah, the policies and everything else are really fascinating to study. But him himself was, I mean, rock star.
Yeah, I know. He's a rock star, especially in
Yeah.
politics. I know that.
Oh, he was just, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why he's still so adored, you know,
Yeah.
is I'm sure that it's that charisma is timeless.
hmm Well, do you have some kind like the most favorite collections that you have in your collections? What is your most favorite one?
So my most favorite, just because uh of what it represents
hmm
and what it is. Um, and I know that you guys have it. It's actually not a photo. And I know that you guys have a copy, but this is the book from Major Bundar. This is the unsigned copy for the documents from Suriname. So you guys have a signed copy. Belanda has a copy. The UN has a copy. But this is the actual, you know, freedom papers from Perang Kemerdekaan. The original documents, the original protocol book, it's just not signed. So when they had the Major Bundar, there was an agreement that they would send documents to Suriname. So this is missing the Dutch documents, but the Indonesian documents, the all the stuff when you saw at the meeting, when it was signed and they were open. So this is probably my favorite thing about it, because it is, you know, the end of the war and kind of the end of colonialization and freedom papers of a country. And it's amazing to own that. So you guys have a copy, the signed copy. Mine is unsigned, but to have, you know, I think maybe the only private copy in the world is pretty special.
So it's original also, even though there is no sign in that
Yeah.
document. Mm.
So if you look at mine, I have the documents in Bahasa Inggris,
Mhm.
because it was by the PBB. I have the documents in Bahasa Indonesia,
Mm.
but I don't have the Dutch documents because I believe those were taken out and signed, and then those documents were sent to Suriname, which was still a Dutch colony at the time. So as part of the agreement for the meeting, they had to send the documents there,
Mm.
and then it has the whole protocol book. So it's the full real deal. It's just unsigned. So it's the extra copy.
Wow. So besides photo collections, you also have textual collections. Do you have some another collections like map or architecture?
Not so much. Like I said, I've got saham perusahaan from the colonial period. So like a stock certificate from the famous hotel in Bandung that like Sukarno helped redesign
Mm.
when they were raising funds for that. The old oil companies and gold companies and stuff like that. I've also got, you know, some documents. Uh, I've got an old letter from a Pangeran, an old Arab Pangeran in the 1850s or something, writing to the assistant resident in what is it, Probolinggo, something like that. So I've got some stuff like that, um, a few old letters, you know, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's photos. I have old books like Indonesia Verge, Hatta, the original Dutch, the one that's in the Dutch archives or the Rijksmuseum that everybody wants to go visit. I have like 3 copies of that. I have Hatta's first book when he was with Perhimpunan Indonesia in Belanda, his economic speech when he took over or when he became the lead of the organization. So I mean, I have a lot of old, Dutch style books like that. Some from the colonial period, but I don't collect as much colonial period because I like to see Indonesia as a free country. So buying a bunch of colonial stuff just doesn't appeal as much to me. There's some that I'll get for the relevance, but I much prefer, well, while a lot of people prefer studying the old history, I prefer, post independence, or at least, World War II and on, because I like seeing you guys not, it's just property. It's just not fun for me to study that.
So your most collections after Indonesia is independent, right? After 1945.
Yeah. Oh, wait. 98% is all post independence. I don't go out purposely looking for, and people asked me, I got a question earlier on IG where someone was like, do you have ancient history stuff? And I was like, I don't want to buy that stuff because I want that stuff to be there. Like for me, that's stuff that should be in Indonesia. Like my stuff is foreign owned, and at some point, hopefully I can do a gallery or something over there, or sell to, someone who wants to take the whole collection and wants to display it. But excuse me. But the ancient history stuff, that stuff should be there like all the time.
Yeah, agree with you. Well, I have Samuel here raise hands. Samuel, apakah Anda mendengar Samuel? Samuel? Okay. So, Samuel, well, let's continue our discussion then because he doesn't respond.
No,
Thank you.
Maybe he'll come back.
Oh, okay. Samuel.
Thank you so much to
Bisa
to
dibuka kameranya? Bisa dibuka kameranya?
Oh, okay, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. My camera is rusak, ma'am. Kamera saya lagi rusak.
Oke, kameranya lagi rusak. Oke, silahkan bertanya langsung.
Okay. Hello, my name is Samuel Rajanusa Matanari. I respect the leadership of ANRI, or the National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia. I want to ask to Mr. Jacob Cash what it feels like when collecting Indonesian historical photo, and how long you have liked Indonesian history from collecting historical photos. Thank you, Mr. Jacob.
Yes. So how does it feel? I mean, when you find something very rare or very interesting and something that's going to drive, you to learn something new, I mean, it feels awesome because, you're finding something really interesting, and then it drives you to learn something completely new. So for me, the number one goal is learning. I don't live there, I don't stay there. So for me, this is kind of a connection to a place that I really care about. So anything that encourages me to learn more is a good thing. And then how long have I been interested in the history there? I would say the second time I went there was 8-9 years ago. So about 8-9 years that I've been loosely learning the history, and then I've been collecting for probably 5 now. So it's been a process, it's there was a couple years where I just kind of loosely learned and loosely whatever I would see a movie like like Surat dari Praha or Sang Penari or Merah Putih or whatever movie it was, and it would get you kind of learning a little bit more, and then you research. But yeah, the collecting and all that started about 5 years ago, and I really dove into it and just started really learning.
Well, I'm going to go back to your presentation just now. You said that you found your collections from the company who has already bankrupt, yang sudah bangkrut. And how do you know that they are going to bankrupt? And how do you identify those companies? Do they like send you notice, or how you get that notice?
So when it comes to buying photos, you'll notice that you'll see a couple that pop up at some, because usually an entire archive is sold to a wholesaler. And to buy an entire archive is wildly expensive. So it's usually the same 6 or 7 people that kind of buy into it. If it's a big archive, if it's a smaller one, you have to search out or whatever. But you'll know that you hit good when you see something like this. So the one I showed you earlier, the Sukarno, see how it has the news feature syndicate. So I know that that came from the news feature syndicate archive, because people would a lot of times stamp, where it came from, who it was. So if you go through King Features library, so that was a magazine. So this photo of Boom Carno, there's the one that's zoomed out, the one that zoomed in, this is the one that zoomed in. You'll see the date and everything, so it's all official. And I know it came from the King Features Syndicate library. So it's a lot of it is the stamping and learning what the different media archive, or putting together the media company with what it is. Then it's sold, or that they've at least sold their archive, and then you just start jumping through.
I think it needs more effort to identify which one is going to be sold, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What do you think?
a lot of times there will be like an announcement, or you'll hear about an upcoming bankruptcy, or they'll have to restructure.
Mm.
So like Baltimore Sun, they've been struggling for years. They sell to a new owner. You think, well, maybe they're going to come in and try to raise money or try to cut ends or whatever. And maintaining an archive is not cheap. It takes space, it takes whatever, you can't downsize. So then you start looking and talking to people and trying to figure out if you've heard where that's going to be sold, or who's going to buy it, or who has a connection to it. And then it's just kind of tracking things down, making some phone calls, a lot of online, just looking around. And if you see one, there's going to be more. So,
Bless you.
no, sorry. I just need a little bit of water.
Okay, just take it easy. Well, I have another question from direct message. It's from Cucu, Lumajang Heritage, from Lumajang Heritage. Hello, Mr. Jacob. My name is Cucu from Lumajang, East Java. I follow your Instagram, and I'm also your fan of classical photo. Do you have a plan to publish a book on the regarding the Indonesian history, or about the photo of Indonesian history? Do you have a plan for that?
Uh, Honestly, because of the copyright thing, I've been looking at what photos have copyrights and what don't, and so you can't make any money off something that is still copyrighted. So it's just this balance of trying to not get sued versus whatever. So that's probably something that wouldn't happen, just because if a copyright is there, it'll be there for 90 years, and I can't make any money on it. So it, if I could do anything instead of putting together a book or whatever, if I could get a way to have a way to, I don't know, do a gallery or something over there, do something like that, some kind of, expose it to the public in a different way, I would love to do it, because I think that there is a difference between looking at a photo online and seeing the original print. The same way it's like looking at the Mona Lisa versus looking at it on your phone. So, I mean, I would love to display these in some way and possibly do some kind of business that way. But again, I don't have a business license. I don't have a quitas. I don't have tax ID. I don't have anything. So I'm not ever going to press my luck.
Well, lots of work to do if you want to publish the book, right? So yeah.
No, it may be impossible. So I don't know.
Ya, baik untuk Ibu Cucu, mungkin belum ada rencana untuk Pak Jacob untuk mempublikasikan foto karena memang terkendala dengan copyright, terkendala dengan mungkin persyaratan-persyaratan di Indonesia sendiri seperti apa. Jadi mungkin tidak akan ada rencana untuk mempublikasikan. Selama ini mungkin cukup hanya kita bisa lihat di Instagram. So only from your social media, right? For your
That's it right
collections.
now. Yeah, if I, I think that's kind of what I'm doing right now
Mhm.
is just something like that.
Okay. Now, you said just now that, yeah, I know that preserving the photo collections, archive collections are very expensive. I know that. So, how would you preserve your collections? How would you, I mean, keep your photo collections in order to be in a good conditions all the time? How would you do that?
So for me, because I'm not doing a 2 million photo archive or whatever, so I enter things into plastic, keep them sharp, but then I also put them inside a bigger folder,
Mm,
like a pull-out folder. And then I put anti-humidity, like
mm,
bricks, almost like they put in like a humidor
mm,
for cigars. But I put that inside there and then close it off so I can control the humidity. Because
mm.
too dry and it rolls, and too wet and it just, you're taking years and years off its life. I mean, you guys live in Indonesia, that you know what humidity does. Humidity is the number one enemy.
Yeah. Ya, ya hadirin sekalian, saya barusan bertanya kepada Jacob terkait dengan preservasi arsip foto, dan Jacob baru saja menjelaskan bahwa eh, memang untuk menjaga kondisi arsip foto kita harus menjaga bagaimana suhu kelembaban, dan juga bagaimana apa namanya, jauhi dari debu dan lain sebagainya. Jadi disimpan di plastik. If in Indonesia, in Andri, we keep the photo in a special paper envelopes, in envelope,
Okay.
free acid envelope. So
Yeah.
you are in plastic by yourself. So do you have any certain classification number for your collections?
I don't. I put them kind of, so because I am going through and just posting things. I have it. I have, let's say, four different folders that hold things, and I have stuff that I've already posted, and then
Mhm.
I'll categorize it by culture, military, PRRI, Palawan National, and I'll just do categories like that. And I don't have so many, hundreds of thousands of photos that it takes me forever. Because if I know that I'm looking for a photo of Sultan Hamengkubuwono,
Mm.
I look at Palawan National, he's going to be somewhere in there. So it takes a little bit longer, but because I don't, I mean, 2,500 photos, it's a lot, but it's not like what you guys have. It's not like I'm not dealing with hundreds of thousands where I need to have cabinets and everything else. I just put them into these things, preserve the humidity level, and keep it by the air conditioner. And then when I need it, I kind of know where it is.
So it's in 24 hours with air conditioned for your collections?
No, so we're lucky over here because
Oh, yeah.
everything is central air
Mm-hmm.
and we're not hot all the time.
Mm.
So I put it down. I generally keep everything down in the basement where it's less humid anywhere. It's more temperature controlled. And then if I put it by an AC vent, it just kind of blows off anything that could be on it. So it's just it just works. It's the safest place. I think I would be fine pretty much anywhere in the house here, just because it is in the U.S. and it's everything is temperature controlled all the time.
Okay, I have another questions from the chat room from Gali. Hi, my name is Gali. You said that you bought the from the company who is going to bankrupt.
Mhm.
How do you buy those photos? Is it from online, like from a website, or you come directly to that company, or is there any specific place or website that you can buy the photos?
So there's it depends because people sell things and then they sell out.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a company that had a lot of them, like historic images. I've seen people posting on Instagram photos from historic images. I bought as much as I could of their stuff a long time ago. So if you go to historicimages.com now,
Mm-hmm.
you can find a lot of photos. There's not much Indonesia there. There's a couple, but wholesalers like that are what you need to find. So I'll do some of it online. I'll do some of it by calling people. I'll do some of it by email because you want to find things before they sell out. And when something is if you think there's a chance it's going to sell, it might. Or a lot of times wholesalers will buy the whole thing and then part it out to other places, and then you lose track of it. So you want to get your hands on it when you can and how you can. So I just go as direct to the source as I can. And those sites and the sellers are changing all the time, because when it comes to photos of Indonesia, you know, there's some, but it's not like that's the focus of anybody's archive. You know, they're basically American archives, and they have world photos in there. So you're really picking out select images from everything that they've done. It takes a lot of searching and a lot of time, and I wish that I could just go to like eBay and buy, because I know that sometimes they put on there, but that's every time I've tried to buy from there, I get burned. So it's just like one of those things of like, unless I know a seller on a place like eBay or Mercari or one of the other sites, unless I know who the seller is, I don't go to like new people, because they just sell you a bunch of reprinted stuff.
So it means that you also need to identify who is the seller, whether
Yeah,
they sell fake photos or not, something
oh
like
yeah.
that. So you need to identify first.
There's a lot of rebuying from the same people, because you know that they are trustworthy and you kind of know how they do business. And I mean, I'll be honest, you know, with the amount of photos that I've bought, there's different wholesalers out there that send me like holiday gifts. You know, they'll send me like a magnifying glass and a gift certificate, or a backpack or something, and it's just like they're like, "Hey, thank you for being a customer." And it's because you build those kind of relationships. Not saying you're best friends, but you know, you correspond with them enough times, and they're happy that you're buying from them, and they're doing you a favor at the same time.
Well, thank you for your answer.
Yeah.
Well, ya sebagai informasi, jadi untuk membeli sebuah foto pun kita harus melakukan riset terlebih dahulu siapa penjualnya. Kemudian juga tidak asal kita membeli karena takutnya nanti fotonya palsu dan lain sebagainya. Itu identitasnya harus jelas karena untuk juga melihat autentikasi dari foto yang dijual seperti apa. Karena banyak sekali mungkin orang-orang yang mau menjual tapi tidak tahu apa sebenarnya ini fotonya asli atau bukan. Jadi harus membutuhkan riset terlebih dahulu latar belakangnya seperti apa. Baik, sekarang saya akan memulai.
But can I
Yes,
just add one thing? Just
oke,
one thing.
yes.
So people are always asking me, how do I buy these things and how do I get
Mhm.
them? Like, I have people that come to me all the time on my IG. Now, I don't buy from Indonesia because I want it to stay there. But there's a bunch of photos over there in private collections, in antique shops, in all these different places that need to be protected because they're not being taken care of. So instead of trying to find things the way that I do from foreign sources, if someone wants to do the same kind of thing or have that, I want people over there to search through the antique shops and look through the local stuff and check Tokopedia or whatever you have to, and protect the photos that are there. Because every year that goes by with the humidity and people not taking care of them, whether it's private photo albums of families, whether it's whatever, people, that's the stuff that needs to be found and protected most of all, because that is internal history.
Totally agree with you. Saya sangat setuju sekali dengan apa yang barusan dikatakan oleh Jacob bahwa daripada kita melihat sumber-sumber dari luar karena memang selama ini Jacob membeli arsip-arsip foto dari luar bukan dari Indonesia. Nah, mungkin kita sebagai orang-orang Indonesia bisa mulai menelusuri arsip-arsip yang memang disimpan oleh orang Indonesia di toko-toko antik dan lain sebagainya. Justru malah mungkin arsip-arsip yang tersimpan di toko-toko antik disimpan oleh orang-orang pribadi itu mungkin tidak terjaga arsipnya. Nah, itu yang harus diselamatkan terlebih dahulu dibandingkan dengan kita misalnya mencari apa yang sudah dilakukan oleh Jacob misalnya dengan bertanya kepada orang luar negeri karena memang sumbernya Jacob totally dari luar negeri bukan dari Indonesia. Jadi seperti itu yang baru saja ingin disampaikan oleh Jacob. Is that right, Jacob?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Boom.
Okay, now let's move to another questions from I see Christiana raise hands. Christiana, hello, halo, Christiana, bisa mendengar saya? Halo, halo Christiana, silahkan buka kamera dan sebutkan nama serta asalnya dari mana. Halo, masih tidak ada respons? Hah? Iya, oke. Silahkan Ibu. Silakan sudah unmute. Yo, silakan. Suaranya masih tidak kedengaran? Halo, tidak ada suaranya? Tidak ada suaranya, maaf. Headset mungkin pakai headset karena tidak ada suara. Maaf, tidak ada suaranya. Atau mungkin headsetnya dilepas dulu karena tidak ada suara sama sekali. Tidak kedengaran? Belum. Belum, tidak ada suara sama sekali. Atau mungkin bisa di chat box suaranya, apa pertanyaannya. Nanti akan saya bacakan di chat box saja ya Bu ya. Mohon maaf karena tidak ada suaranya. Ya, tidak bisa soalnya saya tidak kedengaran suaranya. Mohon maaf Ibu. Iya, oke. So, yeah, let's wait for Ibu Kristiana to ask questions in the chat box karena because I cannot hear her voice. I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
it was sad. It was sad, but
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, technology. Yeah, yeah, sometimes we need technology, but sometimes yeah, technology makes us miserable, something like this.
Yeah. I feel bad every time that something like that happens, but I just what can you do?
Yes. Okay, let's move to another questions then, because we have lots of questions here from YouTube and also from Instagram. Let's see. Let's see, sorry. Um, sorry. Um, Okay, I have another questions. Do you have a plan to conduct an exhibition? I mean, not virtual exhibition, but like on-site exhibition. Do you have a
Uh,
plan for that?
so I've done, like, again, it's one of those things that I don't know, regulations in Indonesia. I don't know, what's allowed and what's not. So I don't really have any plan over there just because, whether I can't get sebagai orang asing saya tidak bisa dapat, the permits and everything else. I have done stuff like the embassy here. They had their embassy night, and I loaned them a few pictures, and they had a display over there for the embassy night of history and different things. So I'm happy to let people, come see my stuff or do whatever. But again, when it comes to doing any kind of business in Indonesia or any kind of anything that would possibly involve me in a situation that I could get in any kind of trouble for seemingly doing any kind of business, I right now I'm avoiding it. Maybe someday I'll get a quitas, maybe someday I'll get someone who wants to work with my stuff or whatever. But right now I'm too careful. I'm scared. I'm really scared to cause problems.
Okay. Yeah, I understand your situation because yeah, you need some kind like formal permit in order to
Yeah,
conduct some kind like exhibition, especially you are going to present our history. So you
yeah,
need some kind like formal permission about that.
yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to make the wrong people angry.
Yes, I know that. Totally understand. Well, I have another questions from Eddie Wibowo. Uh, Hello, Jacob. Where can we access your photo collections? Is it
Well,
in
I mean,
Instagram only?
yeah, right now is only Instagram. I don't, to sit there and scan everything and put it up as like a website or whatever and host it or put it somewhere. It would take me forever. And to be honest, I just don't have that kind of time to just make an actual gallery like that. So the social media works. I just go, you get one post a day, and I can just in 25 minutes put up a description and put it out there. It's probably the easiest way for me that doesn't involve me needing a staff of two or three when I'm not making any money to make it happen. So yeah, Instagram is every once in a while I'll upload something on YouTube, but I'm not really active. But I did a couple little stories or I did a couple little things just playing around. But for the most part, it's all Instagram.
Okay. Now we have questions from Ibu Kristiana just now, the one because we
All
cannot
right.
hear her voice. This is
I'm
her
happy that we can
question.
get to it.
Yeah, this is her question. I just want to know, do you ever think that your action perhaps can change anything for for the future because you are so impressive? So what's your opinion about that?
I, I don't know because I mean, I guess in some way you always hope that you could do something, good like that, and hopefully it wouldn't be negative, maybe it could have a negative influence, but generally, I I try to avoid controversy, even though some of the stuff is controversial by nature. I mean, history is intertwined with politics and identity, and it's a very sensitive ground that you walk on sometimes. But I'm not trying to necessarily, turn any tables over and cause a scene. But at the same time, I do want people to know the truth about certain things. I don't get involved in just a bunch of debates on IG, on the page or about the photos. But when people want to know the fact of it or some history aspect of it, I generally research what I'm putting out there. So I'm fairly well versed in it. And if someone is saying something that's too far away from the truth, I will correct them. But I hope that more than changing anything or changing the future, whatever, I hope that if anything, what this does is make people more interested in learning more or interested in preserving their history. Or even if, I mean, with the way that things are, if someone goes out and buys a bunch of photos now and they go up in the future and they make a bunch of money, good for them too. If they decide to do something like this and invest in something and they make money, then I'm happy for them. There's a few ways that it could go really well. And I just would hope that it would never go really bad and I would, make people angry with something. So I try to be as sensitive as possible, especially with some of the more controversial subjects. And I hopefully if it does make any change, I don't really see how it would. It's just history, but hopefully it would all be positive.
Well, thank you for your answer. Uh, yeah. I have another questions
Mhm.
from Respati. Mr. Jacob, are you a photographer or are you a fan of photos, especially for those with historical backgrounds? Which one are you? Or are you both?
Wow. I take really really terrible pictures. Like I don't really try to take photos. More like I take photos of my wife and kid that are really ugly and they get really angry. So I'm definitely not a photographer in that sense. Um, do I appreciate photography? But I more appreciate the aspect of photography of like Indonesia. Indonesia. It's I would rather see like a beautiful scene or something of culture than I would to see, like photography, like modern photography or urban photography or abstract photography doesn't really speak to me. I'm not the most artsy guy in the world. I'm more history driven. So I do get excited when I see photos that present history in a different light or from a different angle or from, but it was never my intention to buy photos. It just happened. So it's as I'm not a photography expert. I've learned a lot about it, but there's a lot of people that know a lot more about it than me.
Well, I do have one last question for you regarding the controversy because you share your photo collections in Instagram. I know lots of people will make some comments. Yeah, I think some of them can give positive comments. What about the bad comments? Do you like interact with these comments or you just ignore it or just okay, just erase it? So
I,
what do you
I
do?
I honestly I don't erase anything.
Oh.
I'm not about to censor what other people think. And for the most part, if somebody says something, ridiculous, or something that is just, slanderous, I pretty much ignore it. Sometimes other people will come in and and get involved. It's other people will answer, and more than anything, I think that there is Indonesians that argue about your history. Whether it's the events of which president they prefer or which era they prefer or whatever. They'll argue about that stuff. For me as an outsider, like I'm lucky in that I don't have to pick and choose. So whether I'm learning from a history book or from the photos or even from declassified CIA files, whatever it is, I'm trying to get just a clearer picture of what happened. So I'm not invested in fighting over the history. It's just not my thing. Now, some people say some things that, yeah, I mean, like people are always going to say things, that's, I don't know. People just like to say things about other people. I just try not to let it bother me. Like it's one of those things that if I was worried about what every person I didn't know said, I'd be a lot less happy person.
Well, thank you then. Yeah, yeah, I know that some people might think that your topic in your Instagram, I think, will be very interesting. But yes, because we have lots of people coming from different background, yes, some of them might think that it's irritating or something like that. Because as you can see, Indonesia is in politic years. So yeah, the tension is quite high.
And just let me clarify one thing because I hear this multiple times every week. I am not a CIA agent.
Oh,
I am not in any way affiliated with the CIA. Once a week, twice a week, someone's like, CIA. And I'm just like, no, no, I'm not. I'm just a regular guy who lives in a regular house with his regular family. So if anybody is concerned about that, no, I have no connection to the US government.
well, thank you for your clarification then.
No,
Jadi,
I hear that a lot, and it's just one of those things that no, I'm just a regular civilian.
ya. Oke, jadi sebagai informasi kata terakhir tadi dari Jacob bahwa Jacob adalah seorang individu yang bergerak sendiri, tidak menjadi bagian dari pemerintah Amerika Serikat dan beliau hanya tertarik dari unsur pribadi untuk mempelajari dan mengkoleksi hasanah arsip terkait dengan Indonesia dan itu tidak ada yang lebih dari itu. Is that correct, Jacob?
Siap, sempurna.
Okay, thank you. Wow, we do have a very interesting discussions just now, Jacob. There are so many questions coming to my direct message. Yeah, but I'm very sorry I cannot give you all of the question. I cannot give all of the participants to raise the questions due to the limit of time. Mohon maaf Bapak Ibu semuanya. Pasti masih banyak yang ingin bertanya terkait dengan materi hari ini yang disampaikan oleh Jacob. Memang sangat menarik sekali dan bahkan saya pun sendiri sebenarnya sudah memiliki banyak pertanyaan tapi tidak semua saya bisa sampaikan kepada Jacob karena memang waktunya sangat terbatas dan mungkin nanti untuk Bapak Ibu semuanya yang ingin bertanya silahkan langsung ke Instagramnya Jacob untuk memberikan komentar atau memberikan pertanyaan. Is that okay, Jacob?
Silakan.
Ya,
I'll do whatever I can to answer people because I appreciate you all.
oke. Ya, luar biasa sekali diskusi kita hari ini. Terima kasih banyak Bapak Ibu semuanya yang sudah berpartisipasi secara aktif untuk ikut serta memberikan pertanyaan, memberikan komentar baik di Instagram, di YouTube maupun di channel Zoom meeting hari ini. Namun karena keterbatasan waktu, saya harus menutup sesi diskusi hari ini dan juga saya harus menutup eh, acara kita hari ini karena memang waktunya sudah habis ya Bapak Ibu semuanya. Mohon maaf. Mungkin kita bisa berjumpa kembali di lain kesempatan. We would like to also invite Jacob in another discussions perhaps in another sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know. I'm happy. For me, I feel honored that you guys are interested to talk to me.
Oke.
From this.
Ya, ya. Sebenarnya masih ada banyak lagi yang pasti dapat kita akan diskusikan terkait dengan koleksi-koleksi sejarah Indonesia karena memang ada banyak sekali yang dapat kita buka, kita ambil pelajaran dari koleksi-koleksi yang dimiliki oleh Jacob ini. Namun sebelum saya menutup, before I close this discussion session, I would like to invite Jacob to give closing statement regarding of what we have discussed today. Please, Jacob.
Wah, saya mau bicara berkata terima kasih banyak untuk kalian semua untuk dukung koleksi saya dan social media saya. Thank you to Henry. You guys are fantastic. Keep up the good work. I was there visiting Henry, the museum last year. You guys are doing some great things from what I saw, and thank you for the way you guys treated me when I was there. And just in general, keep reading. Knowledge is power. Like if somebody wants to say something or do something, the more you know, the better informed you are. It's just better for everybody. So thank you all very much for supporting me and caring about what I do, and just keep learning.
Keep learning. Yeah. Thank you, Jacob. We have to keep on learning. Whether we are old, whether we are young, we need to keep learning. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jacob.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and
Okay.
you've been amazing. Thank you. You're my new favorite person.
Oh, thank you. Give applause to Jacob then. Okay, before we close this session, sebelum saya menutup acara ini, berdasarkan diskusi yang kita lakukan hari ini, saya ingin memberikan poin utama dari seorang warga Amerika, Mr. Jacob Cass. Kita dapat belajar untuk mencintai Indonesia dengan mengenal lebih jauh sejarah Indonesia. Jacob mengumpulkan buku dan foto-foto asli serta arsip tekstual asli bersejarah milik Indonesia yang menjadi bagian dari bangsa Indonesia, kemudian mempelajarinya dan menjadikannya sebagai bagian dari memori seorang Jacob Cass. Sebagai seorang kebangsaan Indonesia, sejak lahir saya merasa tersanjung. Namun di saat bersamaan saya juga merasa sedikit tersentil oleh apa yang dilakukan oleh Pak Jacob ini karena usaha yang saya lakukan untuk mencintai bangsa Indonesia ini belum sebesar apa yang seperti dilakukan oleh Bapak Jacob Cass untuk mencintai Indonesia. Jadi sebagai generasi penerus bangsa Indonesia, saya ingin mengundang kepada Bapak Ibu semuanya, belum terlambat bagi kita semua untuk mengenal dan mencintai Indonesia, dimulai dengan mengenal masa lalu Indonesia, mengenal bagaimana kisah para pemimpin bangsa kita di masa lalu sampai dengan masa sekarang. Mari kita pupuk rasa cinta kita dengan mengenal sejarah Indonesia bahwa bangsa kita adalah bangsa yang hebat. Bangsa yang hebat tidak melupakan sejarah. Mari kita kenali dan kenang perjuangan bangsa Indonesia, para pahlawan bangsa Indonesia agar Indonesia menjadi bangsa yang hebat dan bermartabat. Once again, I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to Jacob Cass who have shared your knowledge, your precious information to all of us today. Thank you very much. Dan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.